Hello guys, welcome back to another poorly made video essay about a block game made for children. Today I want to discuss and compare two games that I found myself playing a lot recently, Cube Combination and Fruit Mergers. Now don't get me wrong, these are two very unique games. They have a lot of differing concepts in them, but they're both somewhat based on an older game called Cube Fusion. I said older, but Cube Fusion isn't actually really that old. It was only made at maybe a year or two ago. But both of the games I'll be comparing today are based on it, so a little bit of backstory on it first. So here's the rundown on the game that inspired both of the games I'll be talking about in this video. Cube Fusion is a fairly peaceful game. You pick up cubes that randomly spawn on your island, use them to create new cubes, and the cubes can have abilities. You can also create weapons for you to fight with. Yep, that's right, fighting. The game is not all just boring crafting. A big part of the game is actually enemies called raiders that arrive at your island on pirate ships and attack your crystal. I know, pretty cool, right? And also you can't forget about the cool bosses that you can build out to that have special drops that'll let you summon them to fight for you. Now, we're not just going to be comparing the two newer games to the original, we already know they're better. Instead, I'll be directly comparing the two new games, Fruit Mergers and Cube Combination. I'll be using a few important mechanics that are present in the original and the two new games to see which one is ultimately the better follow-up game. The 7 aspects that I'll be factoring into my final decision are going to be as follows: natural ingredients, the basic merging, the recipes, the alternate machines, the researcher, the map, and finally, bosses in combat. Might also bring up some things that might be unique to each game that I might have a problem with, or maybe I really like, just to point out. Alright, slight disclaimer before we get into the comparison. I mean no disrespect to either game. I could never spend enough time or resources to make a game as good as either of these on Roblox. I'm just not skilled enough. And I promise I'm not biased in the least. I've had fun in both games, and I've experienced true pain in both games. So don't just give every point to one of them because I like it more. This isn't a hate video. Also, to some of you who have seen both games, it might already be obvious to tell which one is better based on just the player count, favorites, and visits alone, but I like to judge a game by playing it, not by looking at the popular opinion, even if the popular opinion is right a lot of the time. Alright, that's enough explanation, disclaimers, let's finally get into the comparison. Alright, for the first and probably most crucial component of both games, the naturally spawning materials, your bread and butter of crafting ingredients, the ones that you need to craft literally everything in the game. So these items could spawn from the sky or maybe from a tree. They're the things you need to start out crafting. Let's look at the cube combination ones first, shall we? Cube combination is 8 naturally spawning cubes that fall from the sky. We'll separate them into 2 categories just to make it easier for people to understand if they've never played the game before. The color cubes and the material cubes. There's 4 of each. The 4 spawning colors are blue, green, red, and white. You can craft pretty much any color you want with these. You could craft teal, you could craft magenta, you could craft yellow, and so on and so forth. Now, they're not that useful for crafting, but they do have special abilities such as speed for the red, jump for the blue, and heal for the green. But you can't craft much with them. Now the material ones, on the other hand, have a lot of crafting recipes, but no abilities. So they differentiate a lot, and they're actually really unique, even though it's just colors and dirt. Now, honestly, this is about as good as it can get for a crafting game like this. Natural ingredients are unique, they're creative, they're useful. None of them are just there just to be there. They all serve some type of purpose. Alright, now to get on to the Fruit Mergers ingredients. Yeah, I'll just be real with you. They don't even compare to the cube combination ones. The 2 things that made the cube combinations good are how unique they are, because of their abilities and so on, and how many there are. There are 8. Fruit Mergers fails to deliver in both of these categories. There are only 3 fruits, so yeah, numbers out the window. And they spawn from a tree, which makes sense actually. And I say 3 because I'm not including secret ingredients or ones that you buy later in the game. And as for being unique, the second category, an apple, a banana, and an orange are just about the most basic fruits you could think of. And don't even ask if they have abilities, because you already know they don't. No fruits in the game do, which I know, why would fruits have abilities? But still, it's kinda lame. Okay, I think it's obvious that the point for this mechanic overall has to go to cube combination. No questions, absolutely not up for debate. Alright, next category will be merging. The merging mechanics in this game. How do you put things together? This is the most important part of the game by far. I know I kind of said that about the natural ingredients, but both games are completely centered around the merging itself. I mean, it's literally both of the names. Cube combination first, like last time. Cube combination mechanic. You combine cubes by simply dropping them on top of each other, making them touch, and then combine into a new cube. It's extremely simple and easy. And the good part of it is, anyone can do it, anywhere, at any time. The only notable downside that I have to say about it is that maybe you spend a few minutes combining a few cubes together to make a rare cube, and then you leave it on the floor, and since the cubes fall out of the sky, one accidentally lands right on top of it and makes something you didn't want to make, which would be a waste. This has happened to me before, but it's not notable enough to bring it down. Next up is Fruit Mergers merging mechanics. It's an Amazon box. Yeah, that's all it is. You might be questioning how an Amazon box has anything to do with fruits, but, on paper it's not even that bad of an idea. It's kind of unique. How it works is you drop 2 fruits in, it closes, and when it opens again your new fruit will be in there. Most of the time. Sure, it might seem kind of unique, but there are many notable downsides to this method of combination. A few main ones are that there's only one person can craft at a time, unless you pay for VIP. The box is also very finicky at times, which makes it inefficient to merge with. Another part is that it's in the middle of the island, so unlike cube combination where anyone can do it, anywhere, anytime, it has to only be one person in the middle of the map with 2 fruits, and you have to wait for it to open again. So it's way more inefficient than cube combinations. I don't think anyone can argue in favor of fruit mergers here. I mean, you could try, but the box just doesn't cut it. It's too glitchy at times, and it's not efficient. So the point for this one goes to cube combination as well. For the next category, we have the recipes of each game. Recipes being, which 2 things do you put together to make one thing? Does it make sense? Is it easy? Is it efficient? Pretty much, do I like it? Like usual, cube combination will be first. Here we go. Recipes in cube combination sometimes make sense, sometimes don't, and can range from complicated, take a long time to make, to short, just few natural ingredients together. Some recipes that make sense are as follows. Red plus blue making magenta, that's just basic colors, you learned that in pre-K. Smelting stone into lava, which also makes sense, that's realistic. While some other recipes don't make entirely sense, like that sentence I just said. Wood plus dirt making a backpack doesn't exactly line up with reality, let's say. But at least the cube has an ability, unlike that other game that we're talking about. Now, to talk about that other game that I was talking about, I think it's called Fruit Mergers? I don't know, I got too busy explaining how good cube combination was. The Fruit Mergers recipes don't make sense. I mean, when is combining 2 fruits to make a different fruit ever gonna make sense? Like combining a coconut and a watermelon to make a plum? Literally 2 big fruits to make the tiniest fruit in the game? That does not make any sense. But when are fruits being combined ever gonna make sense? I guess. I think they just picked a bad central theme for their combination game. Maybe something other than fruits would at least make a little bit of sense. So the recipe point will go to cube combination again without even thinking about it, making the total tally right now, I think 3-0. So yeah, it's not going too well for fruit mergers, but hopefully they can pick up the pace in the next category. Now, for the next category, this isn't like an important part of the game. I mean, sure, it's not your meat and bread of the sandwich, but it is a little bit of spice. It adds a little bit more fun to the game. It's the alternate machines. Basically, anything that you can use to combine ingredients that isn't just normal combination or researchers, because that's already two other categories. Cube combination will be first, like always here. Now, cube combination only has two alternate machines in the game besides the researcher, which are the smelter and the presser. Now, I know there's only two, but maybe quality over quantity here. The smelter is on the main island. It actually has a lot of recipes that make sense to a certain degree. You put dirt in there and you get materials such as iron, gold, so forth. You put stone in there and get lava, like I said earlier in the video. Now, the presser is on a different island. It doesn't have as many recipes, but the fact that you have to build your way over to it and fight towers to get to it is actually pretty cool. And there are a few cool recipes you can do with it, such as iron plates that you can use to make plated armor and such. Alright, fruit mergers, on the other hand, is very different. They didn't go with no quality over quantity. They opted out to choose both. Yeah, I was gonna say quantity over quality, but there are a lot of them, and they're not bad. They're actually useful. There are many cool ones, such as a mutator, a popcorn popper, which I love popcorn, and my personal favorite, the splitter, which lets you revert a combined fruit back into its original two ingredients. I think cube combination desperately needs this machine somewhere, because it's very useful when you accidentally combine two things you didn't mean to, which is a lot more common in cube combination than it is in fruit mergers for obvious reasons. Also, selling fruits and fruit mergers for materials and buying new machines with the materials is a very cool way to progress the game. So it looks like fruit mergers is finally getting a point. It's actually looking up for them. Well, not really. It's still 3-1, but at least they got a point on the board. Alright, next up is not the most necessary one, but it is still important nonetheless. It's the researchers. Put something into it, tells you what you can combine with it, and you can always check back later to read over the recipes again if you need to. Maybe if you forget them. So overall, it's very useful, and in my opinion, it should be in any game you make that involves merging like this. Now, cube combinations is up first because it recently got updated. Now you can put multiple items in, and the little bars will all start going up at once. The little bars in cube combination maybe take 10 to 20 seconds to research it. And in the new update, out comes a piece of paper, which you can put in a book, which lets you check in later to see all the recipes over again. It might seem a little bit complicated, but it works. It really works, and it's really useful. The most important part is that there is at least a chance that you get your item back, which is really nice if it took a long time to craft the item, or if it's a boss drop, which are either limited or one of a kind. Now, Fruit Merger's machine is very similar to the original machine from Cube Combination and Cube Fusion. Cube Combination 1 being before the update, and the Cube Fusion 1 just being in general. Except for the most important part of all of them being thrown straight out the window. You never get anything that you research back, which is absolutely dreadful. If you have something rare you spent like 20-30 minutes making, maybe 30 minutes to an hour waiting for it to spawn, you don't know what to combine it with. Sure, you could look it up on the wiki, but that's boring. That would ruin the fun of the game. But if you research it, you're going to have to craft it, wait for it all over again, because you're not going to get it back from the researcher. Or you can spend possibly even more time trying it out with literally every fruit in the game, which there's a lot of them that take a lot of time on their own to craft. So you're probably going to have to look it up on the wiki. And I'm not taking looks into account as much. I'm saving that for the map part of the section. But I don't like how the researcher looks. It's just a gray box with studs on it. And sure, I like retro styles. I like the studs and the plastic of old Roblox. But just throwing studs on there is an excuse for being lazy. You can't just throw studs on it and say, oh, that's the aesthetic of the game, when it takes way less time to do that than, say, the Cube Combination Researcher, which has actual put together models, meshes, textures that actually look good, actually unique. Like I said, I'm not going to factor in the looks as much, but still, the point is going to cube combination, because you don't get your items back, which I cannot stress enough how bad that is. I don't think Fruit Mergers could come back from this, because it's now 4-1, but we still have like 3 more categories left, so let's see. Now, next category is probably the least important one so far, which is the map. This one, sure, might not be a factor for you as much, but it's still important to a certain degree for how the game looks, and some ways how it plays. This is going to be short sections, so listen closely. Cube Combinations map is very simple. Even more simple than the Fruit Mergers map, which is just a bunch of studs. It's just a bunch of base plates that either have machines, bosses, or towers on them. And Fruit Mergers map isn't the most complicated, but the cool mechanics around the map, such as the fishing, the town that you can upgrade, and especially the Jeep, make it a lot more fun to hang around and wait for things to spawn. I know I complain about how the researcher looks, but I do enjoy the studded aesthetic of Fruit Mergers a lot, okay? The point for the map will go to Fruit Mergers this time, because of the cool mechanics and the better looking map overall. And also, I have a big problem with Cube Combinations map, which is the Void, because if things go down there, you're not getting them back. If you go down there, you're not getting anything that was in your inventory back, which is a big problem. Now, we're at a little bit of a breaking point here. The final category is only 1 point, but it's 4-2. So, there's no way Fruit Mergers can possibly come back, right? Well, I'll actually give them a chance. This is actually one category, but I'll give 2 points because I had to combine 2 categories together for this one. Bosses and combat. I combine these 2 aspects together because with Fruit Mergers, there's no combat in the game besides the bosses themselves. And I'm gonna be honest on this one. I may be a little biased, okay? I know I said I wasn't biased in the beginning, but I lied, okay? I fought and beaten every boss and enemy in Cube Combination that you possibly can multiple times. Whilst in Fruit Mergers, I started a fight with the first boss, but it was so boring that I left before I even got him below half. So you could probably guess what my opinion will be on this topic, but I'll briefly talk about it anyway. Before that, I actually want to talk about the original Cube Fusion bosses, which is Cube Fusion is the original game, not Cube Combination. The bosses of Cube Fusion don't set too high of a standard. They're pretty basic, all things considered, but they're not the worst. One thing I do like about them, though, is that once you beat them, they drop a little block that lets you spawn them to fight for you. Neither of the games have this feature, but I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was cool. Okay, back to the main topic at hand. Cube Combination has about 6 bosses, 2 mini-bosses, 1 semi-boss, and also normal enemies. I know, that's a lot. The bosses are actually pretty unique in this game. There's a fire boss, an ice boss, and even a boss with a big hammer. That's not sarcasm, those bosses actually have cool abilities, and I think they're actually pretty creative. The bosses have a large range and difficulty as well. The one with the big hammer, probably the hardest one in the game to beat, because not only is it not a later game boss, it's a mid-game boss, but it's also really strong. And also, the items that they drop are really cool. They could either be trophies that you just keep just cause to prove that you beat them, or maybe weapons that you can actually use in combat. Speaking in combat, there's actually some pretty cool weapons in Cube Combination that you can craft. It's a mix of OG swords, like the Firebrand, the Venom Shank, but also new swords that are unique to the game, like an Ice Great Sword and a normal Great Sword or Big Hammer. Now, Fruit Mergers has 13 quote-unquote bosses. Like I said, I only partially fought one of these bosses, but it was too boring and I don't feel like fighting any of the other ones at all. So I don't know if they have abilities, I don't know if they have weapons, I don't know if they drop anything. Never beat any of them. The boss I did fight was the noob, which isn't an original concept for a boss at all. Like, sure, a noob can be cool as seen in Cube Combination itself. The enemies, the raiders, are noobs with cool accessories like helmets, armor, swords. When you give them actually accessories and animations, They can be cool. Fruit mergers did not care. They don't care. They threw in a normal nuke model that's slightly bigger, has slightly more health, with no extra accessories, no weapons, not even any animations. It just smacks you like a zombie from the freaking toolbox. And don't even get me started on the combat that is in Fruit Mergers. It's non-existent. There's no weapons you can make, and to fight bosses, you throw fruit at them. The damage might be based on the value of the fruit or something, but I only threw an orange and an apple at him. One of the times I threw an apple, it bounced off of his head and didn't even do damage. So that means the hitbox is trash too. I did not stick around long after that. So honestly, combat and bosses, both points are going to go to cube combination. So yeah, it's about standing at a 6-2. Not looking good for Fruit Mergers, is it, guys? But before we get to the conclusion, I want to mention some things that are unique about each game that I may like or dislike. For the unique ones, we'll do Fruit Mergers first for a change. And to be honest, you already know I'm not a big fan of Fruit Mergers. You could tell by the rest of this video. Another thing that I don't like about it, I know there's many of them, but it's the memes that they really lean into to try to get the kids to join. For example, the sus fruits, which are just Among Us figures that spawn around the map randomly, because that was popular at one point. Probably still is, I'm not sure. Or the new Grimace Shake, because that's a trend now. I don't know why, it is, and they added it. So they could put it in the title, and so they get people to join. Point is, I don't like how the game has to hop on the trends just to stay afloat in the cesspool that is Roblox. But, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. And believe it or not, there are some things that I actually like about the game, okay? I know, it's hard to believe after all the hate I've put it through. The materials and upgrades in this game I actually like. The progression system and Fruit Mergers is actually pretty cool. Maybe even cooler than Cube Combination. I know. I'm not going to give it a point though, because I'm not that nice of a guy. For anyone who hasn't played Fruit Mergers before, how you progress in the game is by selling fruits for a material called wood. The amount of wood is based on how rare the fruit is, which makes sense, and you can also transfer a certain amount of wood into a certain amount of stone, into a certain amount of brick, and so on and so forth. And then with the materials, you can upgrade your island, buy new machines and islands to experiment with. I really do like this system. Like I said, maybe even more than cube combination. Speaking of cube combination, there are problems I have with cube combination, but there's one specific one that I wanted to bring up again. I talked about it earlier in the video, which is the map being over a giant void. The base plates aren't big enough, okay? The bridges are too skinny. The problem isn't that I'm clumsy, I promise. I don't fall off a lot. But it's the fact that the items that fall off are gone permanently. This may not seem like an issue. Like if you accidentally kick a block of dirt or stone off the map, you could just get another one, right? But if you have something like a boss drop, which is one of a kind, no takebacks, you're not getting it back in that world, and it falls off, it's gone forever, which is a big issue. And they even had the goal to make explosions from enemies and yourself knock items away, which is very dangerous if you have items around your base and a tank attacks you, or you accidentally use an explosive cube. I may just be mad because this happened to me and my friends while playing. We had our trident from killing Poseidon, which is one of the late game bosses, and is actually pretty hard. We had it on top of the researcher to show it off, prove that we beat him, you know what I'm saying? And a dirt block fell from the sky, landed on the tip of it or something. I wasn't even watching. And by some wonky Roblox physics, the trident got knocked straight off into the void. Yeah, can't get that back at all. Poseidon doesn't respawn. All I'm saying is that if they would maybe make it where rare items like boss drops, or like tier 4 items and up, would spawn back on your island if they fell into the void, that would just be really nice. Okay? Now it's about time to wrap up the comparison and put all the categories together with a final score of, I forgot at this point. I'm pretty certain it's 5-2, which is quite a discretion there. I think everyone that's played these games before coming into this video already knew the answer to this comparison question. That's right, of course Cube Combination is better in most ways. Sure, Cube Combination has its fair share of issues, I'll admit that. I even mentioned some in this video. But Fruit Mergers has more issues, and Cube Combination does the basics of the premise better than Fruit Mergers, but also adds a nice polish that makes it more fun, more unique than Fruit Mergers. So it wins in the end. Just a disclaimer for any of you sticklers, this video isn't just about me hating on Fruit Mergers, okay? I enjoyed playing Fruit Mergers for the time I played it. This video was strictly analytical. I just wanted to see how the games compared to their predecessor and to each other, see which game was better. I'm not gonna preach to you, don't play Fruit Mergers, cause that game's bad or whatever. You can play whatever games you want. If you really are a diehard fan of Fruit Mergers, we could debate about it in the comments. I'd be happy to. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like or subscribing, and I might make more long videos like this one. With all that being said, hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
911, what's your emergency?
I think I ate someone. I'm on a spiritual fitness retreat at the new closing feast, and our instructor, Tony, said that this meal was going to be like an act of his service to our body. So we're all eating like a whole lot of meat, and then I realized like, and then I thought, oh my god. Oh well, the hand.
What are you doing something else?
No. Because the hand was attached to the arm, and the arm had attached, and the tattoo said Tony died. It said Tony got attached.
Okay, where are you?
I think I like that. Falling off the phone.
Okay, just take a breath.
Oh, they're bringing up.
Ma'am, don't.
I'm sorry, it's so good.
Ma'am, do not.
I'm going in.
Ma'am?
Tony! Did they eat someone?
Give you lemons. Don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad. I don't want your damn lemons. What am I supposed to do with these? Demand to see life's manager. Make life rule the day and thought to give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemon. I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.